ready for this? It's showtime. Lights, fans, action. Oh yeah, we've got action. Faster, tougher, more ferocious. There's nothing like League. This is the Betfred Super League.
Got me here. It took a big chunk out of it. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped me ear off. What do you think?
Hello, Eddie Hemmings here, along with Mike Stevenson. Welcome along to another edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast. Half an hour or thereabouts of the best rugby league chat around, with the support, as always, of the game's major sponsors, Betfred. Well, Stevo, the big news to come out of this last weekend is that Hull Kingston Rovers are the real deal. A magnificent win for them at Wigan.
Tremendous display. And if you analyse that game, Eddie, it was all about defence. They completely smothered Wigan. They never allowed them much room. And in the end, it was a wonderful tribute to rugby league in general in a week that has seen so much damage done to our game.
Yes, we'll come on to the Salford issue yet again a bit later on in the programme. But let's look at the good things first, Stevo, as you rightly say. A record number of Rovers fans making the trip across, despite the usual Friday night chaos that is the M62. A statement win, though, Steve, wasn't it? And barring a complete disaster, the League Leaders' Shield should be theirs now.
Well, it looks that way. I can't see anybody stopping them. They've got the smell of success now. They really have got a good, well-balanced side. But when you talk about the quality of, shall we say, Australian players and Australian rugby league clubs, they work so hard on defence. And there's no reason to say that Hull Kingston Rovers have got a defence that could match anything in this country and anything in Australia.
That's a fantastic rap for them from you. It's interesting, though, you know, if Rovers do lift this League Leaders' Shield, they'll be the 9th different winners of that, and yet we've only ever had 4 clubs win a grand final: Wigan, Saints, Leeds and Bradford. Dare we believe there could be a 5th name this year on the grand final trophy?
Well, before the season started, I picked Wigan to retain the trophy. Maybe it's not going to be as easy, but when Bevan French gets back on the field of play, they're a different outfit. Completely different. Bevan French is a key note.
Yeah, they're missing him, aren't they? They really are missing him. Yet, you know, one man doesn't make a team, Stevo, so they say, but Wigan have struggled while he's not been there.
Yeah, well, it's quite obvious that it depends on which particular player that you're talking about. There are players that just make a team gel, a team that sort of plays with each other. They know exactly what's going on. And there are ones that just, shall we say, motivate. Well, Bevan French has got all the quality, all the skills. And Wigan need him back. Simple as that.
Couple of big talking points from the game at the weekend. Should Rovers have been awarded a penalty try just before half-time?
Yes, and yes.
Well, Liam Farrell tackled Elliot Minchella as he chased a Jez Litton kick through. Inexplicably, by the sound of things in your view, it was deemed a foul, but not a penalty try.
It was ridiculous. Look, everybody that's been watching or at the ground, even some of the Wigan fans thought, oh, he'll be sent off for this. You know, I mean, it should be a penalty try. Why on earth do officials go against what everyone else can see? it isn't as though it was hidden. We had about 4 or 5 different replays, and I'm sure everybody that was either there or watching on TV was saying it's got to go.
Well, he did. He was sin binned, to be fair, and the penalty
Yeah,
stretched the
but
lead.
it should have been a penalty try, Eddie.
Well, I agree with that. I do agree with that. You're right. And it wasn't, so there we go. Second incident, Stevo. Jared Uriah-Hargreaves leading with his forearm of a non-ball carrying arm as well, by the way, into the chin of Tyler Dupree. Dupree off for a head injury assessment, which he passed. Hargreaves stayed on the field. Should he have seen red or yellow at least?
He should have at least got the yellow, as far as I'm concerned. I know that there was an almighty sort of clash between the two, but you can't just get away with bringing up the not the ball carrying arm, but the other arm and straight into the head. I mean, it wasn't surprising that he had to go off with a head injury assessment.
Well, Jared Uriah-Hargreaves has since been banned for 2 games because of that. So
well, I think he's lucky, Eddie, that he's only got 2.
Well, he misses Leeds and St Helens, 2 big games.
Well, it will be, yeah. It's the problematic sort of situation whereby, we said it a few weeks ago. Don't write off Saints. I know you've always said that.
No, that's right.
But they're coming into a very good piece of form, and it's going to be difficult. I know everybody's saying that Hull Kingston Rovers, they've got to have it, surely, but they've got a tough road. It's not going to be easy to the end of the season for the Kingston Rovers boys.
No, not without the big fella for the next 2 matches. But anyway, there's no denying the better side won.
Yep.
Leeds, they're in the hunt, aren't they, Stevo? Brad Arthur's coaching future now secured. They went to Castleford on Saturday, hammered them 64-6. There have been too many one-sided matches this year, haven't there? And this is another one. It was hardly Super League standard from the Tigers.
What we got to look at, Eddie, and it is the truth, is that we don't have just one table. It's split. We've got good teams halfway at the top, and we've got poor teams that are down below. You can't escape from that. And when you start getting big score lines like that, you've got to say to yourself, what are Castleford going to do? And it appears that they're going to announce the new coach. I'm sure it's going to be an Australian. But there again, with an Australian coach, will they bring over more and more Australians or New Zealanders? Because let's not forget, next year, there's an extension of overseas players. So that means each team has got the ability to add, 30, 36 players from overseas. How does that look for the young kids trying to break into first grade? They've got to be pushed back once again. There's no control over the fact that we should have so many overseas players. I understand that. But why on earth are we extending it at what I think is the wrong thing to do for our junior development or young children coming through, young players coming through? They're going to be pushed out yet again. And the RFL, Super League, it appears they don't seem to understand that it's the juniors, it's the youngsters that we have to entice, because there's a lot of competition in regard from other sports. And we've got to entice them to come up there and give them the opportunity. And all we've done is just slap them on the face and say, no, we're bringing some more overseas players.
I think Castleford's interim coach, Chris Chester, would maybe agree with you, because his comments after them, his face was like thunder throughout the course of the game. He said Castleford's performance pathetic, unacceptable. Players, he said, that were playing and contracted for next year will have to be shipped out. Totally unacceptable, he said. He can take a beating, but not in the manner it was served up on Saturday. It's hard to disagree, though, eh?
Yeah, but that's Chris Chester talking about himself in regards to his opinion. Now, a lot of the players probably thought, well, why did they get rid of the coach? I thought we were doing A-OK. They weren't breaking any barriers or anything of that. that nature. But when you get rid of a coach midway through the season, a lot of the players would say, well, what's the point? You know, we're trying our best and this, that, and the other. And they get rid of the bloke that's trying to help us. It's a 50-50 situation, and I understand it. But a lot of players get so close to a coach because most of the coaches pull people to one side and just say, look, you should be doing this, you're not doing that right, or whatever. So there's a lot of trust goes into a bunch of players at a club. And then all of a sudden, the coach gets sacked. What do they expect? They're human beings, Eddie.
I understand that. And of course, on the other side of the coin, if you look at the Leeds performance, it looked like they were responding to Brad Arthur's new contract. They were ruthless. And they and St. Helens now breathing down Wigan's necks in the race for second spot. Jake Connor, man of the match, responding to Sean Wayne's plea to show consistency.
Well, obviously, Brad Arthur has pulled him to one side and said, look, you've got great quality. You're a good player. Stop doing these stupid things, which when you look back on his career, yes, everybody, the fans, the supporters, they say, yeah, he can produce magic. He can. But sometimes he loses the plot.
He's shown a bit of maturity these days, though, Stevo, to be fair to him.
It's down to Brad Arthur's coaching, obviously, because you've got it in a situation whereby we've just tried to criticise the way that the Tigers got rid of their coach. Leeds, they're playing as though we want him to stay. And I reckon that the way that they have been playing, that they're very comfortable with it. They realise he's a good coach. So therefore, please keep him. And that's what's happened. Yeah. And you've got to say, Brad Arthur's made it quite clear. He said, we've got a good running. We've got a good chance of making the grand final. And they have.
They have. And they face Hull KR, as I say, this coming weekend, a match which will tell us a lot. Don't write off the other side of Hull, by the way, Stevo. The Black and Whites, another huge win in a huge game against Lee, also on Saturday. 12 up at half-time. Lee hitting back second half, 12 all. Lewis Martin, he's a star, and he try after an hour. Zach Hardaker's conversion won it for the Black and Whites. They're now up to 6th in the table, the Black and Whites. They're not out of it by any means, are they?
No. And probably a quarter way through the season, they were struggling. I mean, it took them ages to have a win on home ground. But yet, Cartwright has been able to lift them and get them in a situation. And once again, an Australian coach, what do they do best? Defence. They're smothered and smothered and smothered. And it may not be the most exciting rugby league football that you want to see, but they're getting the wins. And that's all that counts. I mean, forget about the scoreline. It was always going to be one-way traffic.
Well, Hull up to 6th. Lee, though, they've dropped down to 5th in the table. This was a big blow for Adrian Lamb, and he admitted it afterwards, a big blow to their top 4 aspirations. Back-to-back defeats now. They need to pick up a gear, don't they, this weekend?
Yeah, and they've been troubled by quite a few injuries as well. But look, don't write them off in regards to making some sort of impact, because they're a type of play, they play a type of rugby league football that perhaps is off the cuff. And when you need certain players to really perform when the pressure's on, and I think they have those sort of players, but it's not going to be easy for them, because I reckon this is going to be one of the best in regard to rugby league in the tension and the excitement of the playoffs that we've had for many a year.
Yeah, it was a great win for Hull. A couple of injury blows for them, though. Will Price, John Asiata injured. Cade Kustoff with an HIA, but he's thankfully past that. But we're getting to the stage of the season, Stevo, aren't we, where injuries can prove pivotal. Aidan Caesar missed the league game, but he's going to be back for St. Helens this weekend from all accounts. And that could be a crucial 80 minutes, couldn't it, this one?
Yeah, you don't have to be Einstein to work that out, Eddie. Is that, if you lose one key player, it is a distraction. If you lose 2 and 3 and maybe 4, then you're struggling. And you really are struggling in regards to the fact that you can probably get a good 18-man squad. But if you get 4 or 5 injuries, the quality of the entire team is eroded. And it's not easy at all to try to get shall we say, the encouragement, the interest in the players. And as we've just mentioned, there's no way in the world that I can see what's happened at Castleford because they've lost interest.
It does give them that impression, doesn't it? It really does. But we've mentioned briefly St Helens and never write them off. They're now up to 3rd in the table, only on points difference ahead of the Leeds Rhinos. But they got a massive win at Huddersfield, 52-4. It was another shocking advert for Super League Stevo. Far too many one-sided games right now, I'm afraid. Leeds, a Cass, and now this. I hate to say it, increasing the league to 14 teams next year. You've sort of indicated this as well. One-sided flops may become the norm.
Well, all I can say is that over the years, anyone that's been a rugby league fan has realised that when an Australian coming to the end of his career, you've only have to look back several years, maybe 20 years, that the Australians, I've done my bit in Down Under. Let's see if I can get a nice little contract to come and play in England. Remember when we broke away to make Super League? I'll never forget the situation there where some of the clubs were given millions to make sure they had certain people back in this and back in that, for people to have different coaches, blah, blah, blah. Some of the clubs just spent it on overseas players. And we're encouraging them now to have 36 new players that were now, in my opinion, that's going to affect a young kid coming through that was born and bred in this country. I don't like that.
No, I can tell that. A huge positive in the game for Saints, though. Homegrown talent, Jack Wellesby, returned to action 3 or 4 weeks ahead of schedule. Felt good, he said, ready for some big games to come. And interestingly enough, I saw the Sky summation of the game, and they said, OK, Hull KR, Wigan, Leeds, all going well. But somebody said in the review of the game, the only team that they wouldn't want to face, I think it was Ryan Hall, the only team we wouldn't want to face would be St Helens at the moment, because they're right on blob, aren't they?
Yeah, and they always are. I mean, that when you look at the development and the depth of what they've got, you look at Wigan, you look at St Helens, you look at Leeds, etc., and all that. Hull Kingston Rovers has now got it. In regards to the fact, what have we got coming through? Have we got so much development really come to the fore? Because when you get a player that's off form, blah, 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 you've got to make sure you've got to have someone who's confident enough to take that position and maintain their fight to go towards a grand final. And it's all about the development. And sometimes a lot of people who are supposed to be running this game don't seem to know that word, development.
We knew all about it once upon a time, didn't we? We had development officers all over the country. I don't know how many we've got now, if I'm honest. Don't know.
Yeah, well, I remember one club that had a development officer, assistant development officer, this, that, and the other. One man was doing everything.
Yes, I know.
And they were putting in to the Rugby Football League at the time, they were putting in fictitious names so that they could get the money from the Murdoch organisation. It was just that we didn't control it. And I just hark back to myself and saying the people who run the game should be controlling things like that. And all we have to do now is point the finger at Salford and say, who's at fault for that?
Oh, I know. Well, we're going to
it seems to me, Eddie, that there's no control.
You're right, and we're going to come on to Salford in a sec. But let's first of all just talk about Warrington-Catalan on Thursday. Warrington scraping past the French. The Dragons, though, gave them a hell of a fright. Tommy Makinson's hat-trick. They were 22-12 up at half-time. Makinson injured his shoulder, though, scoring his third. That was him gone for the night. They didn't look the same without him. But Warrington fought back and they won. But to say they are skating on thin ice is probably the understatement of the year right now.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of inside rumours suggesting perhaps that certain players were missing training, etc., etc. Why on earth would you want to give a coach an opportunity to say, well, I'm dropping you because you didn't turn up for training or whatever? Look, to win a competition is all about having a team right from the bottom, the reserve grade, etc., all your coaches, the people that show you how to kick goals, etc. You've got to make sure that you are a tight-knit organisation. Now, I don't know the true story behind it, Eddie, but why on earth is Warrington suddenly, halfway through the season, they were looking very strong. And now they're not looking all that strong.
Well, the cup final took a hell of a lot out of them. The cup final,
yeah,
I'm not going to say ruined their season, but the cup final defeat and the manner of it didn't help.
Yeah, made it look mentally, it wasn't the best thing for them. And if they'd have won that trophy, they probably would have gone in. And probably a few of the players would have turned up for training.
Well, we talk about young players. The two Thulish boys, Josh and Jake, they played a huge part in this win against the Catalan Dragons. And they have insisted in interviews post-match there is no culture problem at the club. None whatsoever. And I think I'm right in saying the reserves, for whom Matt Duffy and Toby King played at the weekend, I think they're within cooey of a grand final appearance. So, you know, it's there. It's there and ready to go maybe in the future.
Eddie, that sounded very good indeed. Good PR, good exercise. But you can't take away the fact that these certain people have not been selected.
No.
So there has to be a reason why they were not selected. All right, the rumours suggested that you missed training, you missed this, that, and the other. I don't know. But it's all right for certain players. They won't come out publicly and say, oh, well, if you know so-and-so didn't like so-and-so or whatever. They're not going to admit that. But success comes about by the team, the full team, both on and off the field of play.
100%.
And it was quite obvious to me, Eddie, that there's something that went wrong at Warrington.
Well, incredibly, after the match, Joel Tompkins, appointed as the head coach of Catalan for the next 2 years, less than a month ago. I know he's been in charge on a temporary basis before that, but he said, listen to this, he's feeling the pressure already. He's won 1 of 11 games. He felt they should have beaten Warrington, but came away with another loss. The pressure, he says, is getting to him as the job and the club mean so much to him. I mean, he's surely got next season to sort it. Mind you never know, do you? I'm going to say he's surely got next season to sort it out, hasn't he?
Well, let's put it this way. Everyone thought Maguire was pretty safe at Castleford.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a job that not many people put their hands up for. It really is a difficult sort of situation. Coaching any sport, especially, it might be easier to coach, say, one tennis player or one bowler at cricket, etc. and so forth. But when you play rugby league, it has to be as a team. You've got to have everybody doing the best that they can. And I can understand him is under pressure. Of course he's under pressure. The results give you one inclination. It's not working.
No, it's not. You're right. Well, Warrington's still alive, but Catalan, sorry to say, playing badly, and they are done for the year. So no playoff place then. Right, Stevo, let's take a deep breath. We didn't think the Salford story could get much worse. But at the back end of last week, it most certainly did. So here we are talking about Super League's blot on the landscape. Let me just fill people in who might not be aware. Salford's Chief Operating Officer, Claire Bradbury, has left her position. Now, that's bad enough, of course. But then came the bombshell allegation from her that someone from the ownership group of the Salford club suggested she sleep with someone at the RFL to smooth things over and help the club's cause in this long-running, ongoing crisis. She says misogynistic, inappropriate language like that is not acceptable. Stevo, it's not. And if this is proved to have been the case and the investigation is still going on, is this the end of the line?
Yes. And it is so sad. I would have thought by the time that we're doing this podcast that we would have something from the people who run the game. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I have heard nothing, apart from the fact that they are coming out with a statement sometime next week. Why do we have to wait so long?
Well, Steve, investigations have to take their course in response to allegations like this. And Salford have unequivocally condemned any and all forms of inappropriate language and behaviour. The allegations have been treated, they say, with the utmost seriousness. The club's going to conduct a thorough internal investigation and take any necessary action to address the situation. They have to have this detailed report as soon as the investigation is concluded, and then we should hear from the powers that be. There's one game we couldn't talk about this weekend. Salford's fixture against Wakefield on Sunday. Because of the fears over player welfare, Salford pulled the pin. They had withdrawn from the fixture against Wakefield, and so the game has not taken place. Now, this is a clear breach of Super League's rules. Steve, someone's got to take control of this. It's ending in tears, isn't it? It really is.
It's getting worse by the minute.
They also have got to try and get Salford staggering over the line and complete the fixtures come the end of the season. Wakefield will be credited with the win, so they're, it's not affected their playoff hopes that much.
Yeah, but Eddie, they haven't been credited with the win yet.
As we speak, it was not immediately announced that.
So how long do we have to have some more meetings to sort out that? What is it? 32-0 that's
48-0.
48-0 we've used in the past, and yet there's no news about, is it 48-0 and Wakefield get 2 points? Are we going to have to wait again? Maybe they'll have another meeting. I'm sick and tired of hearing about meetings. Nobody seems, as I say, look, will someone put their hand up and say it's my fault? But they won't.
No, you're right. Listen, I think we'll draw a veil over all that because we go over it week after week after week, and as we say,
but we can't, Eddie. We can't avoid it.
I know, we can't, and nobody should avoid it. It needs sorting out. But look, next week, Stevo, let me tell everybody, it's a special edition of our podcast because we are going to celebrate the 130th anniversary of the birth of Rugby League, August the 29th, 1895. The great game was born with the split from Rugby Union. You were there at the meeting, weren't you?
Well, as you know, I had the museum at the Georgia Hotel in Huddersfield.
Yeah, where it all started.
Well, for 10 years. And so I suppose in many ways, I'm sure there was a couple of ghosts had a few words in my ear during those wonderful years that sadly the hotel closed down, so I couldn't have my museum anymore.
No.
And I'm still, with fingers crossed, hoping. There's been certain people who've tried their best over the last 10 years to get the backing to build a new museum.
Well, that'd be fabulous.
And we're still waiting for that, Eddie. A little bit like the meetings that the people who are running the game will be having next week.
I'm sure. Well, look, we'll be joined on our show by the man who knows more about the game than anyone else, the legendary Ian Proctor. Proctors will be with us looking back at the history, the highs, the lows, and everything else in between. So I hope everyone can join us for that. It should be great, Stevo. That should be a great edition. I'm looking forward to it. Oh,
yeah. Listen, don't miss it, because I've never known anybody that knows nearly everything about our game.
Well, he'll be looking in the history books, as I hope you and I will be. We'll have to do a little bit of homework on this. Not so much for you, because you've been around for much of the 130 years, but I'll be digging out some bits and pieces. And we'll have a good chat about the birth of the great game next week. So see you then, okay?
Be good. Take care, top man.